Hello, and you are very welcome back to the Public Eye Business Podcast, brought to you by Granite Exchange. I'm your host, Sarah Travers, and throughout the series I'm speaking with local entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how their companies have come to be, to gain insight into their growth and find out how they continue to innovate. So wherever you get your podcasts from, remember to keep an eye out for all new episodes and subscribe to stay up to date. Well, today I'm delighted to be joined by William Getty, founder of Blue Cedar. William, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So before we begin, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on William and his journey to date. So he graduated from the University of Bath in 2017 with a degree in business administration and management. Now, growing up, William had an interest in gardening and transforming open spaces, which expanded after spending some time working on farms, both locally and internationally in Australia. After graduating, William quickly developed his name in the market locally for his skills as a gardener and contract landscaper, which led him to achieving his goal of opening his own fabulous garden centre, Blue Cedar, in Balnahinch in 2019 at just 24. So Blue Cedar is a stylish and quirky garden centre. If you've been, you'll know that. It's purpose-built from locally sourced materials, and it also features a farm and a coffee shop. Blue Cedar combines William's interests in one place, so visitors can enjoy quality coffee, brunch, lunch, and they're able to pick up expert knowledge on plants, shrubs and trees. I just had a little look at the site, and very doggy friendly as well. Now, the novel garden centre's materials are all locally sourced within a 15-mile radius of Balnahinch, supporting local business. This has been extended into the coffee and the gift shop, where William is supporting local and independent suppliers. Now, today, Blue Cedar has become one of the main social hubs in the area, attracting people from all around the region and further afield to enjoy brunch, coffee and gardening expertise. William's sister Alex, who moved back from London, has become a director, and Alex is actually instrumental now to the business, with a particular focus in both the garden centre and coffee shop. But it is William who's in the studio today. William, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
And you know, to be launching such a fabulous garden centre at the age of 24 is really incredible. Are you loving it?
Most days. On the good days anyway.
So give us a wee bit of, I mean, obviously we had some background there in the introductions. Gardening then, where did that love come from?
Yeah, well, I suppose, like, you know, the interest from it was spurred from my parents. You know, both of them had quite a keen interest in it. Growing up with a relatively large garden, there was, well, they maybe made it interesting to me, but it was maybe more to get a bit of maintenance done. But I lived not far from Balnahinch, and I was just always quite eager from a young age. And like when I was leaving primary school or starting high school, you know, I started cutting grass for neighbours and, you know, doing odd jobs for them around the house, and that sort of actually continued to grow and grow. And as I say, when I was leaving high school, going to university, you know, I was able to continue that on through summer holidays. Being at university, or like the semesters were quite short, and it was really when I was coming out of university, I was at a crossroads. I was going to say, right, well, you know, because I said I went down maybe more of an academic route to start with, and a lot of my friends from university, they were going into London, into the city and stuff, and I was sort of at a crossroads. I said, look, I've built up a business here. Am I going to go and pursue my own interests and do this, or am I going to go down a more sort of academic route? But I chose the vocational side of things. But it's been good. Like, it's good to have that underpinning off. So you've always been very practical and hands-on.
Yeah,
and
did you have to buy all your own kit, or did
you
use,
just from a young age. That was probably my Christmas presents and birthday presents when you were 13 or 14 was a leaf blower or a strimmer or something.
I know what I want for Christmas from Santa. A lawnmower.
I know, exactly, yeah.
But you went to university and you studied your degree in business administration and management. Yeah. So did you know you wanted to run your own business?
Oh, yeah, I always did. And you know, that's, you know, something that I've always been very, very certain on from a young age. I'm sort of figuring out now, you probably don't do it for the money anyway. You do it for the for the sense of achievement. But some days you wonder, is it worth it or not? But it's definitely something that I've always been wanting to do. I wouldn't have had any thing against going. You know, I probably didn't see myself doing it so young or on a full-time basis from such a young age. You know, I would have, I would have happily went and worked, you know, in an organisation or, you know, to gain a bit more experience, but just the way it sort of turned out. And like, you know, I've always interested in a good bit of travelling, and then the natural sort of time to do that, or what I felt was best to do that, was coming out of university, or, you know, that's whenever it provided the sort of the gap that I could go and do the likes of that.
So Blue Cedar has become, as we've said there, a real social hub. It's
Yeah.
so popular in the area around Ballynahinch. But how did you go from doing other people's gardens, doing jobs here, there and everywhere, to actually setting this up?
Yeah, so I'd built up quite a good customer base. Like, a long story short, you know, I'd sort of got in well with like a good clientele, and we were doing a lot of work in East Belfast, a lot of landscape work, and still do a lot of that, because the business itself now, for anyone who's not aware, it's structured. There's 3 main divisions to it. So there's the garden, which is, you know, your garden centre style of things. You've got your coffee shop and the landscaping. So we still do a lot of landscaping. We've a couple of landscape teams out every day, and that's still a major part of the business. And that's where I would be still spending, you know, at least 50% of my time would be, you know, would be devoted to the landscaping, or, you know, that consumes sort of a lot of my time as well. You know, we're still doing a lot of projects all across Northern Ireland, both, you know, like sort of residential stuff, but also a lot of commercial work
really?
and whatever as well. So,
And how did that start? I mean, how do you go from, as you say, cutting people's lawns, to
Yeah.
actually knowing how to landscape?
yeah, well, maybe I don't really know what I'm doing. That's
Well,
the
it
problem.
sounds like you're doing an okay job.
But yeah, so like, it's, you know, a lot of it was like sort of learnt on the job, or, you know, I've got a lot of good contacts and everything. But like, I've got fantastic staff now. You know, I've got some real key individuals, and, you know, across those 3 divisions. I know we touched there, my sister Alex, like, she basically runs Blue Cedar Ballynahinch, you know, garden centre, coffee shop off it, and I've got a few real good guys in the landscaping side of things as well, you know, who are capable of running each job. You know, they all bring a fantastic set of skills, so they do. So,
And are they employees, or do they work as associates?
No, they're all employed, so they are.
So how many people do you have on the books now?
Probably across, you know, including the shop and landscaping, including part-time staff, probably be sort of 12, 13, 14 people. So
It's really, really incredible.
Yeah.
But you know, that you must have realised too that people love a garden centre in Northern
Yeah,
Ireland.
so as I was saying there, we were doing like a lot of landscape work, and that's really where my focus was. But as I said, I was from Ballynahinch and quite well connected there. I have a lot of good friends and stuff, and it was just a real opening in the market, or what I thought was an opening, you know, in the town. It's a big enough town, it's getting a lot bigger, you know, there's a lot more development and stuff happening around it, and the town's slowly getting regenerated. So there was another site that I'd been looking at, and, you know, I was quite close to getting a deal done on it, but it was just ended up it wasn't the most appropriate for me. So what I actually took on was a derelict site in the middle of the high street. There was 4 houses there before, and they'd been demolished and had just been left for sort of 5-6 years. And I came in and cleared the site, and we just started off, like, you know, I've just built it, you know, as I go and as I could afford it. We've converted, you know, the novel thing about it is the coffee shop, gift shop, all the potting areas, everything, you know, it's all out of shipping containers. Like, if you flick through our Instagram, you know, you'll see the likes of that. So, you know, and I've just learned really from, you know, converting the first 2 containers, you know, how to do it. And I've maybe got 9 or 10 containers on site, you know. So what I've created there is, like, it's your idea of the garden centre and the coffee shop, but, or what I'm trying to create is an experience. You know, it's not like, I probably don't have the site area or the site space to compete with your large nurseries. You know, I'm not growing stock. You know, we're a retail environment, but what the idea is that people, they're not coming to buy, you know, 101 shrubs or whatever. You know, they're coming out, like, the families coming out for, you know, Saturday brunch, having a walk around after, bringing the dog, and then they're picking up a few pots, a few trees, you know, whatever else is.
Improve their garden,
Yeah,
their
yeah.
little area.
And,
which
and
I think during COVID as well, people have really valued what they have on their own
Yeah,
doorstep, and how
absolutely.
to brighten a place up.
And then, you know, the unique thing about it is that, like, you know, all my sort of furniture as such. You know, it's all stuff that we have for sale. You know, or you know, like the stock in it. You know, it's the site's landscaped in a way. You know, it's not big polytunnels or rows of plants. You know, it's done. You know, that people can go on a bit of a journey. You know, through the premises, and like again, like, you know, linking back my sister Alex, like she's a good eye for, you know, a planting out what plants go to get. You know, so we've, you know, there's a lot of like permanent features, you know, planted out, and you know, it's just to create a bit of a, like a hub, as you say, or somewhere which is quite relaxing. And
this podcast is sponsored by Granite Legal Services, a niche business and immigration law practice located in the heart of Newry City. Granite Legal Services provides legal advice to both individuals and companies alike across a wide range of industries, from employment, commercial or corporate law matters to immigration law. Granite Legal Services focuses on providing legally sound, practical advice to its clients. To get in touch, visit www.granitelegalservices.co.uk or contact 028 3026 2200. But it's also building that brand.
Yeah, well, that is
Cedar
the idea.
brand. Where did that name come from?
Nowhere in particular, probably a bit to differentiate or a bit to stand out. You know, it's there's nowhere in the, as I say, there was like nowhere really in the local area, or you know, I didn't just want Ballinhinch Garden Centre or something. You know, it's just to stand out really, and make something a bit different.
And do you find then that customers are coming in and then realising you do the landscaping as well, and then
so that's you know, in terms of business growth, you know, it's probably through opening Blue Cedar and Ballinhinch, opening the shop. It's actually the landscaping which has been, you know, it's had the most sort of generation out of it. You know, the landscaping is just, we're constantly at capacity, which is fantastic. You know, and
what difference do you think landscaping makes to a property? What does it add?
Like, it's, you know, it's the icing on the cake. The problem is, you know, you don't see, you know, the rest of the hard work that goes into a property or whatever, but you know, you need the landscaping round the edge, you know, to make the curb appeal and whatever. It's definitely the finishing touches, but it's something that, you know, if we're doing it on a new build, you know, it's something that people don't often realise, or maybe people are becoming more aware of it, but it's something that needs to be integrated into the new build from day one, you know, and it's something that people need to, you know, plan for and start thinking towards.
And do you find that people are still coming to you and wanting it low maintenance? I'm thinking, you know, or are there some people who just want lots of flower beds and they want to spend their time weeding? I mean, do those people exist?
People like that exist. Aren't people who get landscapers. Those people come into the shop and they'll buy their plants and they'll know exactly
do it themselves.
What plants they want. You know, our main customer is people wanting, you know, a new patio, as you say, a bit of low maintenance cobbles around the edge, fence and deck and whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You know, that's sort of where my main customer base is. What's
the big thing now in landscaping?
I would say definitely the last sort of 2-3 years, the main thing is porcelain. You know, people are going, you know, porcelain tiles. People are wanting an extension. It's an outdoor room. You know, people flowing from your kitchen living area to the outside. So even your natural stone paving, like, you know, even 10 years ago, there was all your Tobermoors and stuff like that were very in fashion, and like that was a household name, whereas that's starting to drift away now. You know, your natural stone paving and your porcelains and stuff like that. You know, it's all a bit more Italian-y or Mediterranean sort of, and then going back to even your natural stones, that's more like your cottage garden styles. And
I'm dying to know what your own garden's like.
My garden's smaller than this room.
I was going to say, you've probably no time to do a garden.
My garden's like a mechanic's car. It's the last thing to be looked at.
But a dream garden, what would you love to create?
It would depend on the site. You know, it would depend on where you are and what you have around you. You know, probably something relatively natural and like a bit of woodland and just more native sort of gardens, and then obviously all your spring colour and perennial colour. But
not too manicured. Now, William, you started your business up during a particularly tough time, or rather we didn't know how tough it was going to get back in 2019, just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
How's it been?
Yeah, I mean, we opened Blue Cedar start of September 2019, and I sort of said, if I can get through the first winter, you know, obviously it was like everything. I sort of, you know, got the paperwork and got the go ahead on the site from that sort of April before that, and it took me 6 months, you know, to get the site into. By the time I got the services put in, and you know, got it sort of the site itself landscaped the way I wanted it. Took 6 months, and I was thinking, flip, yeah, obviously you'd want to have a garden centre open for the spring, and it just didn't happen. So as I say, it was into the autumn time, and I said, if I can get through the first winter here, I'll be flying. And at that point in time, I was saying we're opening a garden centre, but what really happened over that winter was we'd opened up a coffee shop that sold a few plants. I was thinking, I'm opening up a garden centre that'll sell a few coffees, but it was really the other way around. But it got us through, and then just as the weather was turning, obviously the pandemic hit. So yeah, it was definitely a big upturn at the start, but what actually happened was, obviously, like, as you know, we had 3-4 months of wall-to-wall sunshine.
That's right.
Nobody could leave home. The only thing that people could do was garden and whatever, and we were at the time a small enough outfit that we could sort of slip under the radar. And
what were the rules around garden centres? Were you allowed to go?
No, so we were closed, but we were allowed to do home delivery. So we were offering, all the staff were sort of redeployed. They became, delivering and whatever, and it was a very busy time, and the fantastic thing is, like, a lot of our stock, in terms of plants, it's all local, like, it's all Irish grown anyway. At that time, I wouldn't even have really been buying out of the south, so it was all, stuff in the north of Ireland. So I was still, like, largely speaking, able to get plants in.
So how do people know that you were doing this? Was it social media?
Yeah, social media at the time, really, and word of mouth. As you know, like, everybody was sitting at home and just speaking with their neighbours or their family or their friends, and bored. Yeah. So
what can we do to make home nicer?
It worked well. But going forward with that, like, the adjustments that we've had to make from the business, there was a lot of things like, obviously the food and drink element just ceased for probably the best part of 6 months, or whatever it was. And then whenever we were coming back in, we opened up, put another container in as a bit of an outdoor seating area, got it fitted out, and then sure, like, those times you were allowed to have it open for a week, and then it was closed again and back.
It's really
back.
difficult.
Yeah, so we have adjusted the business. It sort of works on a more, it is an outdoor venue, or we do have covered seating everywhere, heated, heaters and whatever.
But just in case.
Well, it's not even just in case, but it's the way we've had to adapt. But it's probably worked out better,
Do you think people quite like it? I think even
absolutely.
having the coat on in the winter, I like being outside.
Yeah, and it's all covered. All areas are covered, and especially we're finding, like, a lot of the sort of our customers, 65 plus, are feeling more safe in that environment. Especially if they're meeting people who they don't see that regularly or whatever, they're feeling quite safe in that outdoor environment. Even still, there's still quite a lot of the cautious people out there since the pandemic. So it's working well that way.
Well, that's great. And you have had an awful lot of support, haven't you, from your family, your friends,
and
indeed the local community?
Yeah, like, absolutely. Like, you've hit the nail on the head. Like, it is family and friends and local community, like, like neighbouring businesses, everything like that. That's the one thing that I feel is where you lack support from, and I would say a lot of startups or local businesses feel the same. As there's very little support out there from government bodies, or you see these things, Invest NI or your local councils, but like, I'm yet to see actually any benefit from it. Or
why do they not help you?
It's not even that they don't help you, or that there's not support out there. It's the access to that support which I find difficult. I feel like if you were a larger business or a large organisation, you can maybe have somebody employed in-house to help access those grants or those fundings. But for me or for us, you're maybe made aware of these schemes, but to actually sit down, fill out the forms, get everything in order, all the mandates in place, it's just unfeasible for a young company. Or I'm far too busy doing other things, doing day-to-day running of the business, or making sure that I've got the products there to sell tomorrow, or the landscapers have the materials there to finish a job to get paid. I don't have time to be sitting down and filling out forms and forms of grant,
Well, absolutely. And you're still very much, you are the business.
Exactly.
You need to be seeing a little bit of dirt on the old arms as if you've come straight from site. So, you're not sitting in an office, and you're not maybe in front of the computer.
Yeah.
So what message would you give then to those people who are supposed to be supporting
I think they need, like, be it more, they'll hold these workshops or whatever, and you go to your workshop and it's the same as the information that they'll email out to you. I think they need to actually, you register your interest with them, and they maybe have somebody on the ground who can come round, you know, the
around to
businesses, you know, and actually say, right, you know, what are you thinking of doing? I say, yeah, well, I'm thinking of putting in this new office suite, you know, and the computers are costing $5,000, because I knew there was grants there, you know, they could fit up to 50%, but it's actually organising it, getting your quotes for it.
So
you know.
have you had any investment at all? No help?
Just all self-funded and through, you know, retained profits.
Goodness me. And how, you know, has that been quite daunting for
you?
you?
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, I remember whenever I opened up, and as I say, we're hitting our 3rd year anniversary here, so when I opened the shop, everybody said, oh, you know, all your, you know, local business people or whatever, and everybody says, oh, you make no money in the first 3 years, you make no money, and I always said, that's nonsense, like, I'll prove these people wrong. And it's true, and it's not that you don't make any money, but any money that you make, you're constantly reinvesting, and the problem that really, what I found difficult, especially for the first sort of 24, 30 months, was that money that I wasn't making, or those profits that were going back in, I was going back in a lot of the time to government bodies. You know, that was going back to, you know, when it wasn't your tax bill, your VAT bill, your PAYE. And then to make it worse than that, it wasn't, you know, I got no help through my local planning office. You know, if anything, building control were all over my back, local planners were over my back. So then
no one was making it easy for
you.
you.
So then you've got your architect's fees of X amount of thousands, your planning application fee of X amount of thousands. And that's where then suddenly I got all that cleared up and all that off my back, and it's only been in the last sort of 4 or 5 months that then that retained profit, I've actually been able to add new stock lines, add things to enhance the site, built a new kids play park, you know, and that's where then your customers are noticing, you know, those major changes, which actually maybe aren't the most expensive things to implement, but it's for the last, you know, 24 months previous to that, it was all going back to what I would call like sort of local government.
And would you have borrowed a lot initially?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You know, I've a good relationship with the credit union actually, you know, and they've always been good lenders for me, and the likes of that, getting that, you know, at the time just before I was starting, you know, had a bit of a shortfall, and the likes of them, they were brilliant, you know, because it's fairly straightforward and quick lending. It's probably not the most cost effective lending, but it's only now then where I can sit down and like actually have, right, here's my trading history, here's my accounts for the last 3 years, and then look at alternative forms of lending.
And I suppose then it's very much about holding your nerve and staying strong.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
in business, and many people who sit where you are now say they just don't see the curveballs that are coming. You know, planning for shock, and disruption.
That's where I mean is like those curveballs. You know, if you have a customer who throws a curveball at you, you know, 9 times out of 10 you can rectify it. You can amend it. You know, if there's been a problem, they can be satisfied, or if they're looking for something you don't have, you can get it or whatever. But it was always from the public bodies. You know, there's no talking to them. There's no let up from them. You know, they're just over your back and they say, right, building control stipulates that you need to do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of the times I was meeting with the building control officers or whatever, I was saying, look, I don't disagree with what you're asking me to do, but for me to implement these things, it's, you know, it's tens of thousands of pounds, and, you know, I do plan to do it, but when, you know, is the issue.
So 3 years have passed now, and are you able to start taking a wage yourself?
Like don't get me wrong, the last couple of months, like, you know, this summer's been good, but it's well needed, so it is.
I know, and everybody's actually out and about and loving it. And how worried are you about, at the time of recording this, we are facing into the autumn, and if you switch on the TV, on the news at the minute, cost of living crisis looming, how worried are you that your customers won't have the same money in the pocket to visit the garden centre or do the landscaping?
Like it's something that you have to, you know, you bear in mind, no doubt. I think the business that we've created, we're aiming for, our demographic is we've got our young couples in the local area, and we're trying to draw people out of Belfast to Ballinhinch, and we are successful that way. But a lot of our customer base as well, they're at a retirement sort of age, so to an extent, I'm hoping that a recession doesn't have a major effect, on their pocket, and And
they're the same people who were locked down and affected so badly that they appreciate that social hub.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the cost of business and doing business? What about materials and all of that?
So again, from a landscaping point of view, yes, those costs have rose, but all I can do is pass that on to you know, to the customer, to the end user. And it's often a question of, you know, if you don't want to do that because you feel like the costs have rose too much, let's look at alternatives. Let's, you know, reduce the area you're going to do. Let's, you know, change the materials or whatever it happens to be.
So far, I'm just thinking, you know, if you put 50p on a cup of coffee or something like that, has anybody said, oh, your prices?
Well, yeah. I mean, a major thing for the coffee, I think it was in April this year in the food and drink side, the VAT jumped from 12.5% to 20%. So that's, you know, an instant rise right across the board. And I didn't think that, you know, that would have happened in the food and drink thing, or, you know, I thought it would have been still on a reduced VAT rate for a certain period of time. But like, luckily coffee's becoming one of those products is in elastic demand. You know, people are, you know, needing their coffee. We just
love our coffee. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Does anybody have instant coffee? That sounds like such an awful thing to say. But it is true. Yeah. When I was growing up, we just loved our instant coffee, but now everybody has to have their coffee. Yeah. Will that change? We will. We'll have to.
I don't think that's going to change. You know, I mean, from what I'm seeing, and you know, be it people coming into Blue Cedar or us working out in people's houses, there's the population demand now for absolutely everything. You know, I even remember when I was sort of midway through high school or whatever it was, you know, the last recession hitting, and you know, it was doom and gloom, but you know, I just see now, like people, you know, even when we were working on sites, the houses can't be built quick enough. I've got friends who can't buy houses quick enough. Like everybody, you know, I just feel like there's the population demand for absolutely everything. And you know, even from an operational point of view, in Blue Cedar, at times, you know, if we're selling 2 pots for 50 quid and somebody comes in and can't afford them, like there'll be somebody else who will come along. Yeah, you mightn't sell them today for that, but you'll sell them, you know, somebody will come along, because still even getting materials like that or products like that, there's a bit of a lag time and a bit of a delay on the likes of that. So, but
you're saying that people still have the money and they're still spending at the minute.
I think so.
Perhaps there's a cheaper alternative for those who want to.
Yeah, and that's just what we're trying to do is just, you know, cater, you know, across the board for all. What
do you think's been the biggest lesson you've learned so far in the short time that you've had your own business?
It's hard to know. I mean, like, you were making point to, like, you know, any success, but like, you know, it's down to this team that I have around me and the staff that I have around me, you know. And I suppose like the biggest lesson that I have, or you know, any time where I see a downfall of another business, you know, it's a lot to do with the staff, and you know, I think it's how you treat the staff, you know, or what you expect off the staff. You know, it's only going to be
and is it quite niche, the skills that people. So how do you recruit? Where do you find people?
Well, you know, from landscaping side of things, it's a lot of people, you know, a lot of guys, you know, who I know or who I've grew up with, you know, and we've got a couple of young guys who, you know, started when they were 18, 19, you know, and, you know, 3-4 years on, whatever, you know, they're fantastic, you know, now.
So sell it to me as a career. If anybody's tuning in now and they think, I know my young person would be really good at this.
Yeah.
Why is it a great life?
Well, even in Blue Cedar itself, you know, anybody. Yeah, we try to recruit young. You know, the ethos of the business is it's a young company, and like, you know, in Blue Cedar, you know, there's very few people that work there, maybe over the age of 30. You know, so it's a young, so dynamic, it is a young.
So I was
fresh.
Being ageist as well there, because actually somebody might think I fancy a change in career, but
but like I do get people like there's a fella who's retired and he works 2 days a week, you know, and he does maintenance stuff, and it just fits in. It's probably sort of a lot to do with the type of person, or if you're dynamic and you're just interested, polite, friendly. You know, that's something that I'm very, very like passionate about, or you know, making sure that, you know, everybody's puts on like a happy face. And because a lot of times, like, we do find that, you know, in Blue Cedar there's a lot of people out there who, like, you never know what they're going through, or you don't know what people are going through, and like they're using their coffee break or, you know, their 10 minutes to come in and chat with people. And like, I do feel sorry for the girls sometimes, you know, they're having to listen to all the problems of such and such and hear what's happened and whatever, but in the end of the day, that's, you know, we're like, it's the girls who put on the brave face, or, you know, put up with.
Well, that's lovely too, that people feel they can come in and there's a friendly face
exactly,
and
that's linking
ear.
back to what I've said about the overall site and the layout of the site. It's to make a friendly, like, sort of tranquil atmosphere.
And are you really proud of what you've achieved?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't really probably stop often enough, or I like the problem is, like, it's yeah, I am proud of what I've built up, but you always want to do more. You want to push to expand or finish. There's still a small area. Like, I've got a customer car park on site, and I want to just get it finished off and tidied up and stuff. And then I feel like at that point I'll be able to sort of sit back or stop and say, look, this is brilliant. What I've created. But then problem is with me, as soon as that's done, I'll be saying, right, well, sure, we'll change this or we'll move this.
And what about the whole selling yourself as well? Even coming in and doing this podcast today, how comfortable are you with all of that side of things?
Well, I don't know about how comfortable until I listen to it back. But
no, you're doing great.
You're asking me questions about me, is sure if you can't answer them.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people could be sitting here saying different things about me, but
but you have a great success story. You've followed a passion.
Yeah.
You've turned something that started off as a hobby or a part-time job into a business, and you now employ other people.
Yeah.
That to me is a success story in business.
Yeah.
And that's something you should be very proud of.
Thank you.
What do your family say?
Okay, yeah. No, everybody thinks it's brilliant, and like I'm very lucky to come from a close family and a very stable family who, they're involved. Like, they're not, like, my sister Alex had mentioned, she, like, runs it, but, like, my other family, I could say to them, what about this or what about that, or bounce ideas back and forward to them. So.
Do you have a favourite product, plant, tree?
Just the profitable ones.
Of course. The £50 pots only, please. No, seriously, what is your favourite?
I don't really have anything of particular. I don't know. We try to like differentiate the plants as well a bit. There's a lot of I feel like a lot of garden centres, your big garden centres across Northern Ireland, everybody would know 3 or 4 of the big retailers, and you're looking at their stock lines and they're becoming dated. They're selling into dated gardens, dated garden furniture, or what I see as, we're trying to be novel, fresh products, fresh plants, even if it's smaller numbers, holding smaller numbers of stock, selling them quick. And but what we're really doing is, I like that sort of Mediterranean style gardens, and we're doing a big range in the olive trees and more your topiary side of things, that people are, they're not coming in and filling a trolley of, just garden shrubs. You're coming in and buying one piece of topiary to put into the middle of the garden, and make a statement. And it's probably that sort of style of the likes, that I prefer.
There's definitely a gap in the market for you, and a huge gap, because as you say, yes, I do love a garden centre. I love wandering around, but maybe some of the offerings there aren't just as modern or as new, and it's nice to see something exciting and fresh.
It was a year ago then we opened up a gift shop on site as well, and that's the idea. It's local suppliers and local retailers, but it's a particular type of stuff. It's quite modern, fresh stuff. Same with the farm shop offering. Farm shops are brilliant.
Tell me about the farm shop. We haven't really discussed that.
Yeah, so and it is good, but what we were finding to an extent is, farm shops and delis, they're all across Northern Ireland. They're fantastic. I do love them, but the problem is you go into one and it's the same as the next one, the same as the next one, and they are all local suppliers, and I know a lot of them, and we sell a lot of their stuff. But we're again trying to pull in a bit of a different, maybe more of like an Italian style theme, or just, to differentiate the products ever so slightly.
Well, you've definitely whetted my appetite. Just checking out the Instagram page there, it looks lovely. And anywhere where you can get a nice cup of coffee and a tray bake and have a wander around and pick up a nice gift or a plant is definitely ticks the box for me. But before I let you go from the podcast studio today, William, the purpose of this podcast, and I ask this question to everyone, is to inspire existing business owners and those ambitious entrepreneurs out there to grow their business or start a business by offering insight into the success of businesses such as Blue Cedar. So the big question, what advice would you give people who may have a business idea but have no idea where to begin or are unsure as to whether the risk is worth taking?
Yeah. I would say, probably the best of it, it's you need to be prepared for the hard work. It is hard work, and there's no substitute for it. I had a good wee business going before I opened up Blue Cedar, and, it was profitable, and I've had to take a back step from that for the last sort of 3 years, really. And, and everybody who's involved in the company, my sister Alex as well, all the staff were you know, for the last 3 years, you know, everybody's paid fairly or whatever it is, but it's been, you know, only now that we're actually able to see, or what I'm able to say is that like a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. You know, the last 2.5 years anyway were tough and long hours, and that's what I'd say to anybody is be prepared for that. And if you know yourself that there will be light at the end of the tunnel, or if you believe in yourself that you will get there, but, you know, I think, you know, be prepared for that hard work, because there is no substitute for it. Like, maybe now I'm not having to be pumping in the 100-hour weeks, but I know that if anybody around me, you know, anybody's instrumental in the business, that if it had to be done now, they would still do it. And if I had to do it, I'd still do it. And like those closest to me or family or whatever, you know, you can have commitments, and they know that really that it is your business. It has to come first, especially in the early days, to make it succeed. And, you know, that's what my advice to other people would be is, it depends what stage you're at. Like, you know, I'm glad that I've done it when I'm young, and even if it does fail, like, I can still go back and do something else or try something else. But I feel like a sense of achievement because I've already done it. But I would definitely advise people, like, yeah, 100% go and do it. You know, if that's what you want to do and you feel like that it's in you to do it, go and do it. But definitely calculate the risk and work out the opportunity cost. You know, if, you know, as you say, when I'm 24 coming out of uni, you know, I could have been going on to a decent salary, and in 3-4 years time now, you know, with that salary growth and stuff, yeah, money in the pocket, you'd be better off. But it's if you have the passion for it, definitely go ahead and do it.
You'll reap the rewards in the long run, but those 100-hour weeks and all of that hard graft and that going back to go forward,
yeah,
is 100%. What's required to make this work.
Yeah.
Well, I think that light at the end of the tunnel is shining brightly for you right now. So I can't wait to visit. Thank you so much for joining us on the Public Eye podcast, William. Take care, and thanks for tuning in, folks. I'll be back again soon with another great episode. This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team, using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.